Good morning. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Determine if there's a quorum. You have a quorum today?
Yes, we have a quorum, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair, rather.
Let's start with introductions. We'll start over here with Karen.
Karen Estes, Knox County CSC Transit.
Rich DeGrosser, Lakeway Area, MTPO.
Patrick Berg, City of Oak Ridge.
Michelle Christian, TPOt OCT.
Larry Gann, City of Clinton.
Deanna Flincham, Knoxville Commuter Pool.
Jim Snow, Knox County Engineering Public Works.
Blake Sarton, Metro Knoxville Airport Authority.
Catherine Baldwin, Anderson County.
Jack Qualls, Loudoun County, City of Loudoun.
Jeff Welch, TPO.
Darrell Smith, Town of Farragut.
Chico Messer, Blount County.
Brian Boone, City of Maryville Engineering and Public Works.
I'm Tom Claybo with City of Knoxville.
Mike Conger, TPO staff.
Dakota Gentry, City of Alcoa.
Laura Smith, East Tennessee Development District.
James Temple, Sevier County Planning.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any participants on Zoom? No participants. Are there any amendments to the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. You also have a list of common used acronyms in your packet. We won't go over those today. Moving on, motion looking for approval of the February 14th, 2023 Technical Committee minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item on the agenda is election of officers.
Thank you, Vice Chair. After our election in February of officers, the City of Oak Ridge notified us that they were changing the representation on the TPO Technical Committee and on the Executive Board. And so Wayne Blasius was the representative from the City of Oak Ridge on the Technical Committee, and he was, if you recall, appointed chair of the committee at that time. Now Patrick Berger is representing the City of Oak Ridge, so Wayne is no longer here to serve as chair, so we need to elect a new chair for the TPO Technical Committee. With that in mind, I would open the floor for any nominations.
Nominate Jack Qualls to be the chair.
Second.
Motion on the floor to nominate Jack Qualls and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Any other motions? All in favor of the motion to nominate Jack Qualls as chair of the TPO Technical Committee, say aye by aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Since Jack has now moved to be chair of the TPO Technical Committee, we have the opening for vice chair for the TPO Technical Committee. I'll open the floor for any nominations for vice chair for the TPO Technical Committee.
Nominate Jim Snowden as vice chair.
Motion on the floor by Chico and a second by Darrell Smith for nominate Jim Snowden to be vice chair of the TPO Technical Committee, and Jim is thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll be happy to serve if that's what the body wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Snowden. All in favor of the motion to nominate Jim Snowden as vice chair of the TPO Technical Committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, Mr. Chair. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Moving on is item number 4, adopting the amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2026 Transportation Improvement Program. Also associated with the Air Quality Conformity Report and certifying the Metropolitan Planning process. Craig, I think you're up.
I am. First, I would clarify that this is an amendment to the fiscal 23-26 TIP, which has yet to be approved at the federal level, so we're working through that process. So bear in mind that this will be a contingent action that we are forwarding to the Executive Board for action that will then be held back until the new TIP is approved. Just to clarify that, we're still operating on to the old TIP for now, and this is a kind of a different action that we've got the new one in the air, but we need to make some amendments. Further, the agenda says there are 3 amendments due to that kind of timeline of the new TIP still being contingently approved. TDOT needed to move more speedily on one of their amendments, so they're going to process an administrative modification to the current TIP. So the first project amendment on your existing agenda for relocated Alcoa Highway has been removed from this consideration. So this is one amendment for the Pellissippi Parkway project, as well as a second project for one of Maryville's items. So again, two projects on the amendments. Both are existing non-exempt projects within that new TIP. Total funding that's being added is $20.7 million, and that's all for the Pellissippi project, which will proceed to Pellissippi Parkway Extension. We're revising this project, again, to revise the project descriptive elements and increase the program right-of-way funding as well as the total project cost. The single descriptive clarifying that the total project length is 4.9 miles, and then revising the description, termini description from State Road 33 to say near State Road 33. If there are any clear questions about that, TDOT may be able to shed some light on what that specifically means. Right-of-way costs are revised then to include $20 million, 16.5 of federal funds and 4.1 of state funds, increasing the right-of-way phase from $9 million to nearly $30 million for right-of-way phase. And again, this project adds about $20.7 million to this project as well as the TIP, and the overall cost estimate has been revised to $184.2 million, as you see there. I'll go ahead and proceed to the next one. This is Foothills Mall Drive Extension for Maryville, Phase 2 of that project. And they are, this is a project to partially build a new facility there, extending from Phase 1 up to the north there, and then some existing improvements along McCammon Avenue. Again, revising the termini as well as clarifying the project length is 7.6 miles. And then 0.76, my apologies. Moved that decimal point just a bit there. Again, improvements to this facility as well as a multi-use path on one side throughout. Again, just clarifications for the length and description, and there are no funding changes with this amendment. Total cost $6.19 million. And I will pause if there are questions about either of those projects before proceeding to the next slide. If there are not, I will clarify that again, these are non-exempt projects, so they've went through the short conformity process in consultation with that group, and as well as review and public comment periods. Public comment was available through April 25th. That will continue until the day before executive committee. No comments so far. That is proceeding, and of course we will clarify then with that group again that the process will include just the two amendments and not three that are previously described. Do you have any?
I just did want to note that we do have Troy Everett online with us now, and he reports having trouble hearing folks in the room here, so both the chair and presenters, so if folks could speak close to their mic. So, thanks.
If there are no questions or comments, we recommend approval of these two project amendments, as well as reaffirmation that the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process is being followed.
This would be, okay, the much closer I can get to it, this would be adopting item 4E and 4F as part of the motion.
With that, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is a motion to recommend approval of the FTA Urban Transit Program of Projects to the Executive Board. Doug?
All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Federal Transit Administration, or what we call FTA, Program of Projects. We also refer to that sometimes. You may hear us call it the POP. This is required annually. So those of you who've been around know I've come before the committee several times on this. The program of projects is exactly what it is. It's a list of projects that the urban area intends to spend their Federal Transit Administration funds on. This is actually a requirement by FTA. We have to have a public hearing on this, which we do in conjunction with the executive board, just so we're transparent to the public about how we're using our funds. In your packet, you have attachment 5A and 5B. The table is a little bit hard to read, so I'm going to go over that a little bit more detail in the slideshow. There's three different funds that we're going to be talking about. The first is the FTA's Federal Transit Administration Urban Area, or it's called 5307. I'm not sure how to get that stuff
Can
off
you
the top.
hit escape maybe and get the, no, sorry about that. I don't know why it's showing the thing at the top on yours.
Yeah, I don't know how to get that off, but we'll just,
You trying to hide that?
no, yeah.
You're trying to hide the ribbon across the top, right? Is this pointing? Okay. Let's see. Okay.
Okay, the first funding we're going to talk about is the FTA Section 5307. It's called Urban Area Funding. This comes based on a formula, and the urban area for fiscal year 23 got $8.5 million, and you can use this for both capital and operating. The city of Knoxville is the technical designated recipient of this funds, but if you remember back in 2012, they began distributing the funds to both CAC and ETHRA, and so at that time, they moved this public process to the TPO. It used to be just done through the city boards. We got $161,000. You can see in the last 2 years after the bipartisan infrastructure law was passed, we're seeing a little bit more funding. So this year we went up $161,000. We have an agreement with the three agencies on how the funds will be distributed. It's based on a percentage. So CAT gets 79.8%, which works out to about $6.7 million. Knox County CAC gets 14.9%, which is 1.2. ETHRA gets 5.3%, which works out to $450,000. And in the table that's in your packet, you can see how they plan on using this fund, and I just kind of generalized this, and a lot of this are categories that they have to use to apply for the funding in the FTA grant process. So CAT's using it for maintenance, paratransit service, safety and security, and AVL upgrades. CAC is using it for operating, job access, operating, maintenance, safety and security, and ETHRA, it's the same thing, operating, job access, maintenance, and safety and security. There's a second pot of money that comes to our area. It's called 5339 Bus and Bus Facilities Funding. This is $705,000. It can be used to purchase vehicles or equipment, which includes technology, or even to upgrade or construct facilities. Once again, the city of Knoxville is the designated recipient. This must go to a fixed route provider. So the only one we have in our area is CAT, so they get all the funding. For the 5339 program of projects, CAT's going to use this to buy replacement cutaway vans, buy fare boxes, midlife overhauls. That's when they take a bus in about the midway point of its life and upgrade it, purchase bus stop amenities, acquire shop equipment, and purchase support vehicles. The third pot of money is the Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities. This is the funding that the TPO receives, and we often help nonprofits or human service agencies buy vans, or we also award funding to several of the volunteer programs, Knox County CAC, Blount County Smiles, Sevier County Live It. We get $852,000. We can use this for capital, operating, and administration, but there are certain thresholds that we can't exceed that are in the law. So for capital, 55%, operating 35%, and administration, we can go up to 10%. So there's no specific list of projects. We do a separate call for projects, which we're undergoing right now, and those applications are due 21st. But where everything else had a list of projects, this is just giving the TPO permission to do this secondary call for projects. Since we are on community TV, and it is important that the FTA say that we try to get public involvement, I did just want to point out again that the actual public hearing is at the executive board on April 26th. And people can go to our website, www.knoxtpo.org, or they can contact me at 865-215-3824 if they want to make a comment. And we would need those the day before 4 o'clock on April 25th. That's all I have. Otherwise, I'll take any questions or comments.
Okay, is there any questions or comments? Ask for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Item number 6 is update on a safety plan. Ellen?
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to give you an update on our Regional Roadway Safety Action Plan. I've spoken to you a few times about this before. We are barreling forward on it at a high rate of speed, trying to wrap it up by this summer for reasons that I'll make clear. Just to give you an overview of what I'm going to talk about, we've completed several elements of the plan thus far. We've learned something about what's likely to be funded by looking at the first round of grants that were awarded through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program by the USDOT. And we've also been able to look at the new notice of funding opportunity that just came out. So that's what I'm going to talk about. We also have a nifty logo for the plan. So one of the big tasks we've completed is creation of 2 separate high injury networks. So these are networks that identify, first of all, they focus on primarily on crashes where someone's killed or seriously injured, and we call those KSI crashes. So those are the most severe crashes that we see on our roadways, recognizing that, you know, a fender bender's no fun, but we really want to focus on the crashes that have resulted in a loss of life or a severe life-changing injury. So based on 5 years of the KSI location data, our consultant team created a draft of high injury networks, one focused on the city of Knoxville, one focused on the region outside of Knoxville. We worked with our task force, which is made up of a subset of the tech committee here, to refine those high injury networks. And we've created one for the city of Knoxville that identifies 5% of roadway miles, which see 63% of all KSI crashes. And of course, the goal of this is to zoom in on those roadway segments that have seen the most fatal and severe crashes so that we can remedy that and try to prevent those in the future. And then for the regional high injury network, again, that is the TPO region excluding the city of Knoxville. The crashes are a lot more dispersed. So the HIN for the region identifies 1.7% of our roadway miles. And even that small number you see, you get 29% of all the fatal and serious injury crashes in the region. So I think we've done a good job of identifying those segments. So the next step, which we're in progress right now, is creating a series of crash profiles that will be included in the final report. And these focus on the location and the circumstance of the most common crashes that result in a fatal or serious injury. So we'll have 6 of those in the final plan, and we'll include proposed countermeasures based on guidance from FHWA and other sources. Some examples of the countermeasure of the crash profiles we're looking at that result in a lot of KSI crashes. So motor vehicles making a left turn at a signalized intersection, bike ped crashes, especially in the city along arterials that have commercial land use. Both common both in the more rural parts of the region and the city are motor vehicles striking a fixed object. Those are commonly roadway departure crashes. And then motorcycle crashes on higher speed facilities are another common crash type that results in a fatal or serious injury. So we're refining those right now and figuring out the exact 6 that'll be in the final plan. So we've been doing some public engagement along with this. It's primarily a data-driven plan, but we do want to make sure we hear from the public and other stakeholders in this. So the TPO hosted an online survey that was available for just under a month. City of Knoxville's done a lot of targeted outreach to community organizations. They worked with Bike Walk Knoxville to take some surveys out sort of into the street. They spent some time at Cat Station and other places, just walking around, talking to people, getting survey responses. In total, between those two efforts, there were 9 organizations that got a presentation, and then we heard from nearly 500 members of the public for one of those surveys. So as I mentioned, we've seen what's gotten funded for the first round of Safe Streets and Roadways for All funding from federal highways. This first round of awards focused on a lot of planning grants. So basically, there's $1 billion every year for this program. They're mandated to spend, I think, 40% of that on planning grants. So I don't think they awarded the full $1 billion this time around, but basically they awarded every planning grant they received, and then they started making some awards for implementation. So they made 37 awards for implementation. None of them were in Tennessee. I know that Nashville applied for an implementation. I don't know who else did. Of those 37 implementation awards, 14 were focused on a specific corridor, 8 were focused on system-wide improvements, 35 of the 37 included pedestrian safety, 27 included bicycle safety, 27 had a focus on equity. So we're getting a sense of which type of applications are being well responded to. And then they just released the notice of funding opportunity for the 2023 round, which is sort of the deadline we're looking at if we want to go for an application or more than one applications from our region. So those applications are going to be due July 10th. They required that you have a safety action plan in place by June. So I expect we'll be coming back here in June with a plan for adoption. And what the NOFO says is that they want to focus on low-cost, high-impact strategies that improve safety over a wide geographic area. They want to see equitable investment, equitable in terms of the geography across the country, and then also in the sense of serving underserved communities, including both urban and rural populations. And then they want to see evidence-based strategies for solving safety problems. So what's next? Once we finalize the crash profiles, we'll be working on creating a predictive analysis tool. So this tool will take the crash data that we have for our region, add in other information like roadway characteristics and demographic information, and create sort of a tool that says, well, here are the roadways that we expect to see a fatal and serious injury crashes in the future, because there is a degree of kind of randomness about this. We don't just want to tackle places where serious crashes have occurred, because they may not occur there again. It may occur somewhere else where the characteristics are similar. So we want to try to kind of tackle those systematically. Obviously, we'll identify a slate of projects to be included in the final plan. And then because prior to this, City of Knoxville had already started a process of moving toward a Vision Zero plan. So there'll be a standalone Vision Zero plan produced through this plan for the City of Knoxville. And that's all I've got for you. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Sorry. Does the action plan include projects out in the region, or is it just for the City of Knoxville?
It'll have projects for both the city and the region, yep.
Okay. What are like the matching requirements for the grant? I may have missed that.
It's 80-20, so 20% non-federal.
I just want to applaud the staff for us taking the initiative to use our own funding to develop this safety action plan, because otherwise we would miss, or you all would miss, an opportunity to apply for implementation grants this round. So if we're not taking the step to use our funding to create an action plan, which were about 427 planning grants awarded this year. So they're all going to be developing an action plan this coming year, while we're going to have one done. So they'll make us all eligible for seeking implementation funds. So we spent about $200,000 of our planning funds for that effort, but it is putting you in a much better situation to go after implementation grants. So And appreciate the effort of the Safety Task Force in keeping the consultants and to be able to deliver us a safety action plan by June so it can be adopted so that the applications, which are due early July, will be complete for everyone here. So thank you all for your cooperation in that effort.
Good job, staff. Question like when will we be getting out to the region and talking with different groups about what the findings are prior? Are we going to do that prior to June to the adoption of the plan, or what is that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
So in other words, like the action plan, you're going to try to adopt in June. Are
Yes.
you going to get out into the jurisdictions and talk to folks prior to that so we can kind of go ahead and look at budgetary items for
Right.
issues that are out
I
there?
think that's going to be a conversation with the task force, which includes a lot of the jurisdictions. Maryville, Alcoa, Oak Ridge, Knoxville, Knox County are all in the task force. If anyone else wants to add a rep, they're welcome to sort of guide that process as we continue. But yeah, and I think part of that conversation was, do we want to put together a regional application, which is something we that might be beneficial. I think if we had competing applications from the region, that might sort of lessen the chances of getting implementation funds. So, but that'll be part of the conversation for sure.
Any more questions? Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks.
Item number 7 is an update on the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant.
We are moving right along. I appreciate Craig running this thing. I've stolen these slides from the city of Knoxville. And Craig, if you want to go next slide. We received notification a couple of weeks ago about the EPA developing a grant program for climate pollution reduction grants program, formula grants for funding. And indicate there's it's a very quick turnaround. April 28th, there must be a notice of intent be submitted. May 31st, application submitted, and pretty much wrap up everything within 2 to 4 years, and there we go. We're back. So the MPO, or the Metropolitan Statistical Areas, the top 67 population, will receive $1 million if they choose to participate in this carbon reduction grants program. The state of Tennessee will receive $3 million to do this carbon reduction program. And if the MSA does not choose to participate in it, that funds can go back to the state. So we've had conversations with the city of Knoxville since they've been very proactive in doing climate reduction planning and programming and implementation, but how to potentially proceed with this grant program. And these are the outcomes from the grant program that the EPA wants us to address. So they want to adopt and implement ambitious policies, collaborate with local regional entities, explore funding opportunities through various ARA funds and Build It Back Better funds or bipartisan infrastructure law funding, and prioritize effective actions and policies and adopt metrics to track emissions. So it's basically a lot of it's going to be data-driven, and in conversations with the city of Knoxville, we'd like to create a greenhouse gas basic inventory for the entire metropolitan statistical area, and then be able to develop that tool for each of the jurisdictions who would like to participate in this program for developing emissions tool for the jurisdiction so that they can test and model various emission tools. And this is both for vehicular or mobile emissions as well as stationary emissions. So we were looking at that to move forward with it as far as putting together a notice of intent for this effort. Craig? So we've had some initial discussions on an estimated budget for this effort. And the way we are thinking of approaching this is that if those that were around here when we did Plan East Tennessee 8 years ago, maybe even longer, I can't remember anymore, but the city of Knoxville was the designated recipient for those funds. And because they deal and worked with housing and urban development at that time. And we think the best model moving forward, this would be for the city of Knoxville be the designated recipient for these funds, working with the EPA that have experience with working with EPA grant programs. We do not as Knoxville, Knox County Planning. And that we would potentially have the city of Knoxville, since they have the technical understanding of those types of emission models, and we do not in-house, besides, even though Mike's our modeler, but he's a travel demand modeler, not a emissions modeler, so that we would probably look at partnering with this proposal that have the city of Knoxville manage the technical side of the mobile emissions, the modeling. We develop a regional model for the MSA, and then for those jurisdictions that would want to participate in this modeling effort, we would develop specific models for those jurisdictions so that they could then have the potential tools for addressing greenhouse gases through this area. So potentially looking at, and then the TPO would be involved with working with these communities outside and with the city of Knoxville, but primarily with our participants who want to participate in this work. We'll be working with you in public involvement, developing the action plan with your partners in your communities, and then we would engage any public consultants in this process as necessary towards implementation and development of the plan. And then we would have a partnership with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where we'd be able to get a doctoral student or something like that to involved in doing some technical work for specific case studies or anything like that we'd like to see. So we're really putting together right now, trying to look at hey, we want to apply for it. We think the best model is for the city of Knoxville to be the lead agency with contract with EPA, and then the subcontracting back to Knoxville, Knox County Planning, and working through the TPO to engage our regional partners in this effort. So this is sort of really a rough budget that we're looking at, depending on a lot of what our local partners who want to participate. Right now, we have heard from Knox County, Maryville, Alcoa, and the city of Oak Ridge are at least interested in moving forward with this partnership. There is no funding involved with this as far as a local match. It's 100% funding from EPA, and so this is sort of the direction that we are heading in moving forward, because it is a fairly quick time frame to put together a letter of, again, notice of intent to apply in 2 weeks basically, and then the final application by the end of May. So if your jurisdictions are interested in moving forward with this or want to partner with us, please let myself or Ellen Zaviska know, and so we can potentially put your name in the notice of intent and then get letters of support from you for the complete application. So, not sure if anything else you want to add or
I just
any
got a
questions.
question. Implementation, is there activities, what kind of have explanation of what those other activities are?
I've not looked at it that carefully enough to look at the implementation activities, but it will this will allow you to be in a better situation to apply for any EPA funding or any special funding that comes out of the bipartisan infrastructure law. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of money, obviously, just so we know from the bipartisan infrastructure law that is going to communities, and EPA is, at least historically, I'm not sure with, the control of Congress may or may not change a little the funding that may be available for implementation moving forward, but that's, we have to anticipate that there will be funding for implementation programs.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Jeff?
Any comments or concerns regarding the path that we're looking at?
Live crowd today.
They're just mesmerized by you,
I
Mr.
know.
Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Intimidating.
Jack's leadership.
All right, moving on. Item number 8 is the priority populations of 2022 update, socioeconomic challenges in the Knoxville region. We have Aubrey Whalen with Knoxville, Knox County planning staff here.
Hi, thank you. I'm Aubrey Weiland from Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Planning has published a third iteration of the priority populations data set, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen before. This is the first time we produced a technical report, however. So this presentation will define the priority populations, briefly define the methodology, and show the patterns observed in the newest vintage of this data set, just like we do in the tech report. And I do have print copies over where I'm sitting. They're really gorgeous. We have the best graphic designers in town. The priority populations data set seeks to quantitatively determine areas of concentrated stressors and areas of high opportunity. The communities that experience highly concentrated stressors are considered priority populations. These are communities that may be prioritized when planning for future local and regional investment, like during transportation improvements or economic development initiatives. Briefly covering the methodology, data for each measure is assembled at the census tract level. We use the 9-county Knoxville region. We analyzed 27 socioeconomic indicators, which are then organized into 4 themes. We created a score for each theme, and then the 4 themes get summarized into one composite score, which is priority. These themes are livability, mobility, opportunity, and vulnerability. You don't need to memorize what's going into each of these because we'll see it when we also look at the patterns. But very briefly, livability is really just whether you can live a healthy and safe life in this area. Mobility is your ability to get around wherever you need to go, especially to work. Opportunity includes your income and financial security, and vulnerability is characteristics that make a population more vulnerable to economic fluctuation. In the first iteration, these indicators were selected based on input from the equity team for Plan ET and from references in Knox County's health impact assessment. These were done in about 2013 for Plan ET, and the priority populations data set for this is associated with 2014. The original collection of indicators has been expanded from 22 in the 2018 follow-up vintage to make the priority populations model more informative and predictive. We actually replaced some of the indicators that were used in the previous iteration and expanded upon it. There are 27 indicators, so we're not going to go over every single one. But here's an example of what they look like for the mobility theme. These are all of the indicators that are under mobility, which again is the ability to travel, to your education, employment, and other daily needs. We look at the percentage of the population that takes public transportation to work, percentage of households with no vehicles, the distance to the nearest transit stop, the percentage of income spent on transportation, and the average commute time by workers who do not work from home. We can jump straight into what patterns we saw. So before I get into these maps, I want you to direct your attention to the bottom left corner of the screen. This is the color scheme for every map. The dark blue areas are areas of concentrated stress, and then move on to green and yellow for areas of more concentrated opportunity. Note these aren't good or bad. They're areas that might have stress or inequality in that area. Then for the livability theme, which again is the health, housing suitability, and safety of the built environment, we see high stress areas in Knoxville, Alcoa, Sevierville, Rockwood, and Lenore City, as well as part of Maryville. Of the 10 census tracts with the lowest livability scores, 9 are within Knoxville city limits. And some of the issues that these tracts have in common include low access to grocery stores, high housing cost burden, and a large share of households living in inadequate housing. Moving on to mobility. Larger cities and towns tend to have higher mobility, and rural areas tend to have much lower mobility. The best scores are around Knoxville and the Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area, which is expected since both these areas are served by public transit, whereas Granger and Union both have very low mobility. In these areas, the overwhelming majority of workers commute to another county for work every day. Moving on to opportunity. West Knox has the highest number of very high opportunity tracks. The tracks that are outside of Knox County that are very high opportunity tend to be the result of high home value, and these are often near areas of major employment centers or waterfront living, so think Oak Ridge and Tellico Village. Central and East Knoxville have exceptionally high poverty, low living wage jobs, and low home values. And Lenore City tracks are below average in nearly all opportunity measures, including and especially educational attainment, income, and income inequality. Our last theme is vulnerability. All tracks in Union County and Granger County are moderate to very high vulnerability. Both have a lot of people with disabilities and above average shares of grandparents in charge of their grandchildren. Urban areas in the region tend to have high vulnerability scores, especially around Knoxville and the Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. This is attributed to larger minority, LEP, and disability populations. And this is the composite score, the priority population's overall map. All tracks in Union and Granger are moderate, or I'm looking at the wrong notes, sorry. Priority issues are found across the region, primarily in urban and rural settings, with less stress in the suburbs, the main pattern in this. Urban areas tend to have larger vulnerable populations, whereas rural areas are impacted by low mobility. These are areas where many workers commute long distances to get to employment centers that may be in another county or even in another state. What they have in common is that urban and rural tracts both tend to have low opportunity scores, which occur for various reasons in different parts of the region, although high poverty is a driving factor amongst them. At the end of the report, we do a quick deep dive into Lenore City, because this is an area that scored low in 3 out of the 4 themes. Looking into the actual data set, these census tracts have negative z-scores in 18 out of the 27 indicators. So 2/3 of the metrics that we had analyzed were all pointing to this area having concentrated stress. This is a great opportunity to show what kind of insights this data set can provide. So this is a little capture from the actual data set, which isn't included in the technical report, but is going to be available to anyone who wants to see it. This data is in z-scores. So anything that's negative is going to be directed towards higher stress. Anything that's positive is higher opportunity. And we can see that in these 2 tracks that I identified as being Lenore City is the highest z-score, or the farthest away from zero, meaning the farthest away from the mean, is in LEP, or the limited English proficiency. So this is a great point for anyone who's doing our kind of work, because that means that in future outreach events, we know that we probably need to target more diverse language accessibility. And we cover almost every one of these indicators in the whole last page of this report. So I highly recommend that you look into it. Look through the report. It's, again, gorgeous because we have a great graphic designer. And then because this is all at census tract level, it's not great for if you're trying to target an entire place or an entire county. So we are developing, we're currently developing a dashboard at planning that will help people, multitasking. That will help people actually do this similar kind of analysis on their own. This dashboard will be available for use by the end of the month, so it'll be right around the corner. When it eventually loads, it's going to have an interactive map that you can click on any census tract and be able to see all the different accurate data that we have for this site. So it's not going to be in z-scores, it's going to be in percentages, things that you can actually use in your day-to-day work. It also shows an average score for all of the census tracts in that place or county. So it'll show overall, Union County has poor mobility instead of having to go click on every census tract.
Is that report something you can email out to the technical committee?
Absolutely, yeah. It's actually, or no, the link isn't in there. The link to the technical report is in the agenda, and we'll email out the dashboard when it's launched. Unfortunately, it looks like Zoom might be keeping this from opening. So we'll just email out the link later.
No worries. Is there any questions or comments?
I would just like to say Jeff had sent the deep dive from Lenore City to myself and city administrator prior to the meeting, and it was a lot of good data in there. It was a very interesting read and something that we can use to study and learn from. We do have a very diverse area, growing area in Lenore City that I do think causes some challenges sometimes, which is something we're very aware of. But I think we need to be more aware of when we're trying to communicate and get information or give information from a planning standpoint. But thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Anything else?
I would hope that this data also would assist you, communities and development district, whatever, in grant applications, and working with your local elected officials in that to be able to go there with data-driven information, data-driven recommendations moving forward. So again, this is just an additional tool that we'd like to be able to provide to our jurisdictions. And I thank Aubrey for putting this together for everyone here to, when you're looking at just at the impacts of your capital projects or impacts of some of your operational policies or things like that nature, it just can give you another lens to look at your moving forward on your community and initiatives.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to use it for a grant this afternoon. So thanks. It helps. Any more? All right, moving on. TPOt, you're on deck. Update to Alcoa Highway from Woodson Drive to Cherokee Trail.
When I stop sharing, you're going to reshare, right? I think, or are you?
Or just share?
I think if you're into the screen, you should be all right if you're in the Zoom. Yeah, we can do good call if you want.
Or just take the laptop and move it aside.
Here, I didn't know if I was going to. Pardon? There we go. This should be good times.
Just slide that over there. Sorry about that. No, you're fine.
Got two more for you there, Kristen, if you want to zoom it back up.
There we go. All right.
Good morning. My name is Christy Brown. I work with the Region 1 TPOt office out Strawberry Plains. Thank you for inviting us here today to talk about Cherokee Trail. Before we get into actually talking about what you guys can expect once we start the Cherokee Trail project, I want to give a brief overview of just the Alcoa Highway corridor as a whole. Some of this you guys have probably heard before, but I thought it would be a good update. So the image on the screen is a map that shows the 7 projects that we have along the corridor from UT Hospital down to McGee-Tyson Airport. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. So the project furthest north is the Cherokee Trail project. It is currently in the May 12th, 2023 letting, so we're excited that we're finally going to be able to let it and move forward into construction. The project just to the south of that is the section from Maloney Road to Woodson Drive. It's wrapping up construction. We anticipate that to be complete sometime this spring. Below that, we have another section in Knox County from south of Topside Road to Maloney Road. That is also under construction. Currently, we anticipate that one being complete sometime summer of 2024. So then we'll move down into Blount County. We have several what we call relocated Alcoa Highway projects. You can see one there in brown and one there in purple. Both of those projects are currently in the right-of-way acquisition phase. As we was moving toward construction, what we realized was that those two projects really couldn't work independently of each other. So we have determined and decided to combine those and to do a phased letting approach. So the first section is what is referred to as PN 101-651.04. That project is currently in the August 2023 letting. So we're looking to go to construction summer, early fall on that section. What that section will allow us to do, it will do some of the interchange there at Pellissippi and the relocated Alcoa Highway. It'll provide connectivity for the local routes. And our plan is to come back probably in July or August and to give you guys a good update on that one and kind of walk through that project and all the specifics of that. So the next section, the .05 project, will go to construction when 04 is completed. So we're estimating that'll be 3.5, maybe 4 years from now. The 05 will actually be able to go to construction. The section shown in red, which is from the Little River, the Blount County line to Singleton Station Road, will be the last section that will go to construction. Just because of the tie-ins from relocated to existing Alcoa Highway. So that section we would anticipate to go to construction after the 05 is in construction. Could be for a year or so after that one gets started. They can overlap, but that's kind of the time frame that we're looking at. And then the section farthest to the south, shown in blue, is the section right there at the airport, and that one is completed. So that's just a real quick overview of the corridor as a whole. Now Eric Wilson is going to kind of walk through the traffic control phasing for Cherokee Trail. Let you guys know what you can expect once we start construction over the next 3.5 to 4 years. And then to wrap us up, we've got a fly-through rendering that we're going to show of all three of the Knox County sections, just to kind of let you guys see visually what it's going to look like. All right, let me stop sharing, or stop sharing. Oh. Just go from one to another. You can scroll in.
All right, thanks. Like Christy said, I am Eric Wilson. I am the project manager for all the Knox County Alcoa Highway projects. And I get the honor of going over 4 years of construction in about 5 minutes, so this should be fun. So in these color-coded traffic control maps that we have here, you can kind of see, I'm going to zoom in so it's a little easier to see, but as you can see in green, this is where the traffic is going to be in each phase, and the orange is where the work zones are going to be. So in phase one, if we're looking at the kind of the beginning of the project, going back here, this is where the current section that's been under construction that's wrapping up this summer, the Maloney to Woodson section, where it ends and this section picks up. So you can see this is Woodson Drive, and the traffic primarily in this phase is going to be, for Alcoa Highway, is going to be where it currently is at. This phase is going to be very heavy in utility relocations. We have, of course, the Big Bluff section that runs adjacent to the highway, and the other side is where the river is. So there's going to be a lot of work on retaining walls, rock cuts. There'll be blasting. It'll be a very slow, tedious process. With the highway being where it's at, we can't just go to town and just blast away. We have to do very slow, controlled blasting and rolling roadblocks and all that stuff. But as far as, besides when we're doing the rolling roadblocks, the actual impacts to Alcoa Highway will be minimal for being a construction zone. This is going to be the biggest phase of the job. I'll scroll through here. As you can see, nothing's really changing on Alcoa Highway. And then as we get to the interchange with the hospital, with the UT Research Park at Cherokee Farms, with the entrance to the Marine Park, to the Navy Marine Base, and Cherokee Trail going back to the residential areas is not impacted by this phase, and this phase is anticipated to take up to 2 years. So if we're talking about a May 23 letting, roughly this summer of 23 we would begin construction. So you can kind of do the math in your head. That's 2 years from there. Well, there won't be a lot of impacts to traffic itself. There will be some impacts to some of the parking areas with the hospital, with UT. There will be some impacts some of the the local roads like Woodson and Y-Way. However, the actual main traffic patterns will not change at all. We are building this a new road here. It's actually an existing road, but we're improving it for the hospital. It's called Lifestar Road. This will be an essential improvement for us to be able to accommodate all the traffic, especially the shift changes for the hospital. Of course, you have a major level 1 trauma center, the main hospital in this region, and lots of employees that come and go. So that's a big challenge in this project. Let's see. I think I covered everything I want to do in that one. So let's go to phase 2. And now as we go to phase 2, the orange remains the same. That is the work zone, and the kind of the lavender purplish color is the past work zones as we move forward. So the major change in this phase is that traffic going northbound in Alcoa Highway is now shifted to the newly widened portions of the highway. We've now excavated all the rock bluff, got all the utilities into their majority of the utility relocation is going to be in phase 1. So most of that work's already been done. So now you're going to see the traffic shifted to I guess the east. Southbound traffic is remaining where it's at. We're starting to work in the middle of the highway, working on the median barrier wall. Of course, the final proposed typical will be a 6-lane highway, very similar to what's out there now between Maloney and Woodson. So you continue on going to the north. We still have the at-grade entrances to the Marine Base and the Marine Park. We have some work starting to happen a little more into the internal traffic of the hospital. There is a existing, we call cattle pass. It's kind of a culvert that we're going to be modifying into a pedestrian kind of tunnel. This project does have kind of begins the connection of the greenway that crosses over the bridge here, and currently goes behind the research park, comes out closer to the Marine Base. We are going to be tying into that with this project. Of course, we have all the projects, Alcoa Highway projects, is eventually taking that greenway into Blount County. But we also will have that connectivity to the hospital. There'll be a greenway that kind of connects right here. It's kind of hard to see. I'll zoom in a little bit on that. But this existing greenway that just connects to the existing network will be able to connect to this tunnel and then connect to the property, to the hospital and the UT Ag property. I do want to point out that I didn't mention in the last phase, but these at-grade intersections will remain open almost throughout the entire project until near the end. And that phase is probably, pretty much everything. Phase 1 is 2 years. Pretty much the rest of the phases together will be the 2 years. Of course, when we get a contractor on board, they'll give us more of an exact schedule, but the phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, these are smaller phases, generally 6 months, 12 months time frame. So we do have phase 3, which is divided into 3 subphases. The main thing about this phase is that we're going to be turning on a lot of the interchanges. We're going to be turning on the new interchange and turning off the old interchange. Traffic's going to be moving to the new ramps from the old ramps. The hospital entrance is so we're making a major change to the hospital entrance right now. It comes off the existing bridge, comes in right here. We're building all this for this to be the new entrance, and so that a lot of that's been happening in phase 2. Phase 1, we have these ramps down here being built. So as you can see, in phase 3, a lot of these ramps are being turned on. We have some challenges though. We have a grade change right here from the existing to the proposed entrance. It's about 30-foot grade change. So we are actually utilizing a kind of a rare geofoam wall that's not used very often in Tennessee. I think we're actually racing to be the first ones. There's one in Memphis that's supposed to be using it. So it's basically these little foam blocks that they just stack on top of each other, and it's a way of expediting, because as you see in phase 3, we got this gap right here. We have traffic we're ready to shift traffic from the old bridge to the new bridge. And then another challenge you have here is you have emergency vehicles trying to access the hospital. So phase 3A, we're continuing on with construction a little further down to the hospital. We're still working on Cherokee Trail. We're starting to work on these, basically switching traffic from the at-grade access to a new frontage road, which we just call Marine Base Road. Phase 3B, this is a critical phase for us, as if traffic's coming from northbound and they're having to get to the new hospital entrance, this is the phase where we're kind of closing this gap right here in Cherokee Trail, where we're building up that foam wall. So during this phase, we have traffic having to use the old existing bridge, and using some temporary traffic signals, they'll have to go take to the left, cross the old bridge, take a right up the on-ramp, going the wrong way on the ramp, and then turn right onto the new bridge to get to the hospital entrance. We are actually going to put a 28-day time limit to get this, basically this traffic movement. We're giving the contractor, they have 28 days. So there's going to be an incentive to do that before the 28 days or on the 28 days, and there'll be a penalty if they don't make the 28 days. So this is all what we recognize. This is not a ideal traffic movement, so we're going to try to limit that. As you can see here, traffic is now on Marine Base Road, so these at-grade access points are gone. We're continuing work, and the remaining portions where the traffic was out in the outside, so traffic now in this phase on Alcoa Highway is now all shifted to the east. And then we're also working on some of the egress points from the public parking areas of the hospital. This is where if you're familiar with the hospital, if you park there, this is where you come out on the pay toll booths there. Still have these existing at-grade entrances open. Phase 3B. So now we're starting to look like what the final product's going to look like. We have some final work to do. Traffic's finally out of that, out of this traffic flow. We're now completely using the new bridge. The full interchange is now operating, although we don't have the full traffic lanes as we work on this final portion of the Cherokee Trail. And then we have some more work here on the internal ramps of the hospital. So phase 4 is mainly a resurfacing phase. The video we show here will show this a little better, but I do want to kind of point out really quick some of the changes we have made to this interchange. Of course, the Y-Way is going to, and Woodson Drive will be a roundabout, so that's how that'll operate. And then the end of the collector road system of the Maloney-Woodson section, that will be tied into this intersection. There will be 6 lanes of traffic once the project is open. As you can see, the frontage road to the Marine Park and the Marine Navy base is grade separated from Alcoa Highway. We do have basically have 3 ramps for northbound Alcoa Highway. We have this existing, if you're coming from the apartments, you can take a left here to go north. If you're kind of coming out from the hospital, you can completely bypass this by going down this slip ramp here, which will actually go underneath the new entrance to the hospital. So we have 2 bridges, one here and one here. This also will take traffic coming out of the hospital onto the slip ramp. They'll be able to bypass all the signalized intersections minus this one back here. We also have one for more of the internal traffic, more of the workers of the hospital using Lifestar Road. They'll be able to get on right here. And then off ramps will just be right here, and they'll be able to utilize the intersection. For southbound, course, we mentioned this ramp coming off. If you're coming from, northbound, if you're coming from Maryville Elko Highway, you will use this ramp. You'll be able to take a left to go into the main public entrance, or take a right to go into the where the employee parking is. And then coming out of it, if you're coming out from the public entrance, you would go through this new roundabout system, then take a right here, take a left here, and then get on the hospital, get on the ramp going south towards Alcoa. We do have 4 signalized intersections. There'll be one here at Medical Center Way and Cherokee Trail. There'll be one here at the off-ramp and on-ramp. There'll be one here at the new entrance, and then there'll be one here with these ramps in Cherokee Trail. And then, of course, there will be a new entrance into the research park. Is there any questions about that? I know that's a lot.
Roll that bean footage.
All right, roll that beautiful beam footage, right?
I think you got job security for the next 4 years, right, Eric?
Yeah.
There's no sound. Where's the sound at?
It's just music.
Oh.
Okay, this starts at the Knox County line going north. So this is the Johnson, we call the Johnson River section. This is Topside Road to Maloney Road. This will be the new interchange with John Sevier Highway, which is starting to take place now. You start to see it come to fruition. Get rid of that ugly kind of crisscross pattern that's going on now. There is a greenway facility on the, I guess, the left of this image here. Kind of, there, you can see where it kind of goes off there at UT Farms. So now we're in the Maloney to Woodson Drive section, which is now 99.9% complete, I would say. Now we're coming into the Cherokee Trail section. So there's the new roundabout at Woodson and Y-Way. And then on the right here, you can see our bluff work. As you can see, it's going to be lots of rock cuts and retaining walls. That's it.
All right, looks good.
Any questions?
Can't wait to drive on it.
Christy, I have a question. Just an observation from driving through the other projects and the other phases. I think everybody appreciated through all the different phasing the ability to keep 2 lanes in each direction. But through that bluff section, I think the common mindset was at some point it would probably be 1 lane in each direction. But looks like you're going to try to maintain that 2-lane north and south through all phases, right?
Yes, that's correct. That is our plan. Like Eric mentioned, there'll probably be some rolling roadblocks periodically when they do the blasting. We are having a pre-bid meeting for the project to stress that the plan is to maintain 2 lanes of traffic in Alcoa Highway, both directions, and to be prepared if anything happens to clean it up quickly.
Yeah, now, not to say that sometimes that 2 lanes in each direction might have some chicanery or some shenanigans, but you did always maintain 2 lanes, and that was appreciated.
Like it. Like it. Do we have an acronym for that in our list over here? We need to create one. Any more questions for TDOT? Comments? Thank you guys for coming. That's
Thank you.
Very informative. All right, moving on. Item number 9 is, item number 10, reports from our FHWA and TDOT partners. Michelle?
Hello. No major updates from us at this time. Our planning grant is anticipated to be announced soon-ish, hopefully within the next month and a half, but as more details come out, we'll make sure y'all know.
FHWA, I guess they're, all right. Jeff?
I'll just refer you to the item 10, or 11 other business, number of items that we sort of touched upon a little bit today. But take a note there's links to get access to some of these grant application processes, notice of funding availability, and that. Executive board meeting for later this month, and tentatively May technical committee also. That'll be subject to what the agenda will look like. So appreciate everyone coming out today, though. Thank you.
Do we have anybody from the public here to speak, Doug? All right. With that, call for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.